Watcher everybody, and welcome back to the Zeusdaz Unemulated Retro Game Channel. I go by the name of Zeus and I have a special video this time round. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, but I've not had the time to do it. But again, the question popped up a few days ago by about 3 other tuber viewers, I should say, asking me what they consider would be my top dozen to 20 games on the ZX Spectrum that I recommend people try, or if they're just out to buy a Spectrum now, what I think they should have in their collection. But this is really mainly my own personal choice. These are my favourite games. This is following on my Amiga video, which I did quite a few years ago now, of what I consider the top 20 games that you should own on your Amiga. I'll put the link, in fact I'll put that at the end video, on the end of this video, so it'll pop up the thumbnail and you can click it and watch that. So it's about time I've done it for the ZX Spectrum. There's just tens of thousands of games for that machine, and there's so many great games for it. So it's about time I actually got into gear and shared with you my, I'm going to go for 20, my 20 favourite ZX Spectrum games. There is a lot more, but that list would be 60 or 70, you know, it's ridiculous. So I tried to nail it down to basically if I was on an island and I had 20 games, this is what I would pick. That's basically what I'm going to do. Now, they're not, unlike the Amiga version, it's not ranked from 20 to 1. It's just 20 random videos. So even though they go up in numbers, it's not ranked in that way. So number 1 doesn't mean it is the number 1 game I like. So it's just 20 random games of that are my favourites that I think you should at least play a couple of times and see what you think. So no time like the present. Let's crack on and see what the first game out of 20 is. Impossible by Hewson came back out in 1986, so this is the same company that brought us Nebulous and Exelon and Ranarama. This is an excellent game. It's very tricky, it's very challenging, and the idea is you have to control your ball across 8 levels, and while you're doing that you need to hit the cylinders. So here we go. Beautiful 3D effect. Amazing amount of parallax scrolling there. It's like every line, such high resolution. Just a very challenging game. So the idea is, as I said, you've got to go around, avoid the spikes, avoid all the enemies, all the hazards, and knock these cylinders. And the cylinders are in the bottom left hand corner, sorry. You also have a time ticking away, which is deliberately done to sort of set panic in. When I mean deliberately done, you can hear it, so it's always in the back of your mind, tick tick tick. It reminds you your time's ticking down. So it's a very clever game indeed. And yes, once you've cleared all the cylinders, then you have to get past the last section of the hazard and then cross the finishing line like thus. And that's level 1 done. I said there's 8 levels altogether, extremely challenging. It's a game that I can complete without cheats, one of my most prized and proud moments. Each level looks very different colours as well, absolutely beautiful. Yep, so if you like challenging games, this one's for you. Go check it out. Let's have a quick look at later levels. As you can see, again, different colours, which makes it more interesting. There's nothing worse than if it was all the same miserable colour. It'd be very boring. And again, just to keep avoiding everything you see, it gets harder and harder right up until level 8. Again, different colours. So at the high end levels now, and you just have to making sure that you keep an eye on your time. And those things flashing at the top there, that's extra time bonus if you hit them. Move on to another later level. That's the final level, very tricky, level 8, deadly level. It's a great game, very challenging indeed, so I suggest you go and give that a go if you like to have your brain squished. Right, on to my second choice. Arcanoid II, the 128K version. This, back in the day when I bought it, I only had a 48k plus, so when I saw this sequel in the shops, I rushed home, got my money, went back to the shop, got the game, got home. A little bit disappointed with it because the sound effects on the 48k version just didn't do it for me at all. I liked the first game, I didn't like the 48k version, but as soon as I got my toast rack, my 128k plus, and I finally got to experience the 128k version, which is this, then I fell in love with it. I think it's beautifully made. Yes, there's a couple of, well, there's one especially, one particular colour, green, which can be very painful to the eyes, and the problem is they made the bat the same colour as the background. There must be a reason for that. I don't understand why it wouldn't be black outline. No idea. Only Mike Lamb, who created this, coded this, would be able to come up with that answer. But yes, it's I absolutely love it. I think it's very, very nicely done indeed. It's very challenging. Another game I can complete without cheats. Again, that's on my channel under a Let's Long Play, so you can check that out. But yeah, I find this game very enjoyable for bat and ball game. Some people prefer Batty. I actually don't. Batty's a good game, but it's very good in two-player co-op mode. That's one unique thing about it. And then you can obviously go through levels of your choice. So that's the green level. That's the worst one of the lot. But on emulation, it tends to be a lot brighter. On the real hardware, the greens are not as intense, so it doesn't look so bad. You get other painful pills like that, which is scrolling, which really does your eyes in. Let's check out a couple more of the later levels as we go on. Again, back to more easy on the eye colours. M, so you get a respawning ball all the time. It's an excellent version. I think it's brilliant. I loved it. I always have enjoyed this game. But yes, I recommend you play that. I think that there should always be a bat and ball game in everybody's collection, ZX Spectrum collection. And just zipping up the levels here give you some idea of what sort of levels you can expect. They get harder and harder as the game goes on. But it was a game back in the day I never thought I could complete, and I managed to do it a few times now actually. Yeah, so there we go. That's my second choice, Arcanoid II Revenge of Doe on the ZX Spectrum. Make sure it's the 128k version because you'll enjoy it a lot more than 48k version. And there's Doe himself, so we'll leave that with him. Who will win this battle? Who knows? Go and check out my Let's Long Play. On to the next game. Pogo, aka Cuba. It's the best Cuba clone you'll ever see on the ZX Spectrum. It moves great. Everything is there. Coily, or in this case he's called Slither. Copyright reasons obviously. This came out in 1984 I believe, or 83, somewhere around there, from Ocean Software. And it plays so well. You won't see a better Qbert clone than this on, in fact, on any 8-bit. I've not seen a decent Qbert clone. If you love Qbert in the arcade, you'll love this game. It plays extremely well. As I said, everything is there. 16 levels altogether. Then it loops back to level 10. Another game completed. And there he is, that nasty snake. He's always out to get you. But yeah, it's just a joy to play. One of the best, well, conversions, if you can call it a conversion. It's slightly, you know, it's not squares, it's hexagons, but it makes no bloody difference. It's basically cubes, let's face it. It's even got the weird aliens at the bottom that go up the steps. In the arcade, they make some crazy noises. Those upside down characters. Yeah, very, very good game version indeed. I recommend it to anybody. If you're a Qbert fan, you're going to love it. And also, I might add, it lets you play either up, down, left or right, or in the corners of your joystick. So it follows on just like the arcade version of the joystick control. So you don't have to turn your joystick around 45 degrees. You can actually play it in the corners of your actual directional joystick, and it will correspond to where you're jumping down in diagonally in the on the pyramids, which I think is very, very useful. There's been a few. I think there's one game on the Amiga where you have to press up, down, left, or right. It wouldn't allow you. It wouldn't allow you to put it in the corners of the joystick, so it made it very tricky. But great game. I recommend it. Go and give it a go. Pogo on the ZX Spectrum, aka Hubert. On to the next game. BC Bill. Not to be mistaken for BC's Quest for Tires. I love this game. It was one of the first games, not the first, my very first game on the ZX Spectrum I ever saw or ever got was Horace Go Skiing, and next was Chucky Egg. BC Bill wasn't far behind it. I remember getting it in a Sunday market. For just some reason the cover just grabbed me. I took it home and oh man did I love this game. It's so much fun. I don't know if you get away with it today, but basically the idea is you have to you have to bonk the woman over the head in more ways than one. Oh dear, okay, I digress. You've got to whack her over the head with your club, take her into the cave, then you get a load of babies growing up and you've got to feed them. I mean, yeah, obviously it wouldn't have happened today, would it? Because of the real ridiculous woke kind of snowflakey, whatever world we want to call we're living in right now. Hopefully that will change somewhat eventually. But basically, you could look at it like this. He's violently assaulting a woman, dragging her against her will into a cave and raping her. So that's basically it, isn't it? Let's face it. But back then, this was innocent. This was just a very clever game. So you've got to get a couple of women in the cave, and obviously you get some kids, but you've got to keep them fed. So you keep whacking all these weird aliens, well, not aliens, but food over the place. You've got to watch out for the little tortoise, the black one there on the bottom right, left-hand corner. It kills everything. There's also a blue dragon that comes along from time to time. You can kill it, but it's best to avoid it. And when you do too well, when you manage to get your kids up to year 17, is when your kids are old enough to leave. So you can whack the blue dragon. A big red dragon comes out and wants to kill them. So it's such a fun game, it really is. And what makes me laugh is if you look at the women, they've even got their the shape of their boobs sticking out, which made my wife laugh quite immensely, to be honest with you. Just these women just dazedly wandering around, not knowing what they're doing, and you got this Randy caveman who who's just basically, you know, trying to grab a couple of these women and have his way with them and get some next of kin going. So it's such an amusing game. I really recommend you play this one. One of my favourites. As the seasons go on, it gets more hectic. See, there's your kids, but they're leaving because they're starved. Because they're thin and malnutrition. They're going off. But if you're successful, the kids are quite big and they walk across the top screen, and then the red dragon comes out. You get 2 seasons, winter and summer. And I just think it's such a joyful game to play. Really, it's not to be mistaken, as I said, with BC's Quest for Tires. That's a completely different game. Go load it up and give it a go. Go and bonk some women, and bonk her in the cave, and get some kids and feed them and everything else, and while avoiding nasty dragons. Brilliant game. Such great innocent times. On to the next. Jetpack. How can we leave Jetpack, a classic like this, off this list? I do this game, yep, zap around the screens, fix your rocket, put it together, and then collect the fuel. There's 4 rockets altogether, 4 screens per rocket, 16 screens altogether before it loops back to stage 1. So 4 completely different shaped rockets. But yet, once you're done putting it together, collect the fuel, drop it onto the rocket, and then once your rocket is filled up with fuel, get in it, take off and go to the next stage. It's such a fun game. It really is such a playable classic. Brilliant. I can't see anybody not liking Jetpack. It really is a phenomenal game. to the point years later it eventually got converted to other systems. But the ZX Spectrum, it was designed and created for the ZX Spectrum. It is the original, and every collection should have this game. Just go for it. You collect jewels as well, but here we go, straight in your rocket, take off, and then you come all the way back down again, and there we go. Now the only slight issue I have with this game is that the platforms are all the same, so you can kind of score harvest a little bit. On the top right hand platform you can sort of hide and avoid a lot of the nasties. However, if you're a proper gamer you wouldn't do that. But there is a mod that came out a little while back, which I'm just about to show you, which should have been Jetpack 2, but Jetpack 2 was officially Looney Jetman. That didn't go down with people very well, that. But this was, you could say, Jetpack Plus. It's called Jetpack Advanced, Jetpack Plus. There's been another update recently, but I'm just about to show you the original, what I consider what should have been Jetpack 2. Just see if I can show you all the rocket shapes here. And finally, yes, there's the main rocket, and there we go. Some of these aliens are really bad. They really do home in on you. But if you get bored with this, well, you won't get bored with it, but if you want a tougher challenge, then I recommend Jetpack Plus, which I also call, as I said, I consider it Jetpack 2. So let's take a look at that right now. Now, looking at this, you probably think, well, there's no difference at all. But oh yes, there is. This is Jetpack Plus, aka Jetpack 2. Check this out. Unlike the original first game, where you just go up and come back down again with the same 3 platforms, this is what happens. It gets completely changed around. There's new platforms, new colours, and it goes like that through the whole game. Every 16 screens different. It gives such a new challenge to the game. Gameplay is exactly the same, nothing taken away. All the aliens are the same, it moves just the same. Everything is exactly the same, apart from the difficulty has been ranked up. That platform in the top right hand corner of the original game is now gone, apart from stage 1. So you can't point harvest up there anymore. You've got to really earn your way through this game, and each stage is very different. Again, look, more platforms, different colour. New rocket again, same rockets, but again different platforms. So it's a huge challenge, a much more better challenge all around. It's been revamped, more interesting. In fact, if I remember right, there's one screen where there's no platforms at all, so there's no protection from the baddies. It really does take it to a more of an interesting, challenging level. So that is Jetpack Plus, aka Jetpack 2, aka Jetpack Advanced. This is the real sequel in my book. So those 2 games definitely for your collection, Jetpack and Jetpack Plus. On to the next game. Bruce Lee. Oh man, did I have fun with this back in the day. I remember when I first played it, all these exciting different screens. I didn't know how long the game was going to end. It seemed forever, but I went from something like completing it in 20 minutes, and now at this moment in time, still 2022, I am still currently the world record speedrun holder of this game, of this version, of 5 minutes 42 completion time. This is footage of that run. It's just such an enjoyable game. In my opinion, it plays much better than all the other 8-bits. You don't need colourful backgrounds. It's easy. What I find so great about this version is, and the reason you can complete it so fast, is because your character, when you want him to leave a platform, he does. The other versions, like the Commodore 64, I think the Amstrad might, but it's definitely Commodore 64 version. For me, I did not like anywhere near this, because it was hard for him to leave the platform. He just kept sticking to the platforms and the ladders. He wouldn't want to shift. So that was a big negative for me on that version. But this, I just love this version. Again, you have to collect the lanterns. You don't have to collect all of them, but there's certain ones you do have to collect to release wars like that, which allow you to progress. And the idea is there's 20 screens, and you've got to get to the main wizard, or whatever he is, and collect the final lantern that will kill him off and allow you into the treasure room. Great game. Love it. You know, it's a short game, but I just love it. A couple of sequels came out on the well, one on a PC, which was Bruce Lee 2. That was modelled heavily on the Commodore 64 and Amstrad version. And there was, of course, Back to Fury, which is a Commodore 64 official sequel as well. So there's kind of 3 Bruce Lee games altogether. But I always go back to this. I just love it. It's simple, it's fun, it's good for a quick game. If you've got 10-15 minutes to kill, this is it. I love it. So yeah, that's another game I recommend for you to play and own on your ZX Spectrum. Good old Bruce Lee. Whoa! On to the next. Oh, what a game. What a game. Chucky Egg. Of course, on the ZX Spectrum, the original game, the official original masterclass release. This was designed and created on this computer, and soon after ported to so many different other formats. But this for me is the pinnacle version. I just love it. I remember when I first played it, when I got my Spectrum, a couple of weeks later I hired it from a library somehow for a magazine. Oh, I was just so addicted. It's so fast, it's frantic. Gotta love that colour clash on the ladders, isn't you? I love it. But taking nothing away, it just plays so beautifully. So yeah, your Henry House, whatever his name is, and you've got to collect all the eggs. Pissed off chickens are not happy about that, you're stealing their eggs, and you collect the bird seed, that freezes the time temporarily, and then you finish collecting the eggs. Now you can see in the top left hand corner there is a duck. Now that duck stays put until you've hit stage 9. Once you've hit stage 9, the levels go back to the same way as level 1, except for this time, instead of the chickens, you get the duck chasing you around. And we can have a quick glimpse of that shortly. After that, you complete the levels again. And, oh, died there. That wasn't very good, was it? You complete the levels again, and you get the duck and the chickens. So it's ramped up again in difficulty levels. Levels go over and over and over. I mean, there's the duck. He's after you. He bounces all over the place. You've got to time it right, otherwise he homes in on you. And then once you complete, as I said, those levels again, you will get both the duck and the chickens. So it's a really challenging game. I absolutely love it. Just a shame that Chucky Egg 2 wasn't like that, with different levels. I'm still waiting for someone to do another Chucky Egg level design, a fresh set of 8 levels. Someone out there's got to do it. We've had endless Manic Mine and Jet Set Willy mods. We've had Renegade, Target Renegade mods. We've had Jetpack mods, have you just seen? There's been so many mods, but we've not had another one of Chucky Egg. And Chucky Egg 2, it only appeals to certain people with a certain taste palette. Not for me though, it's a completely different game. Didn't like it whatsoever. This is a classic. Chucky Egg. Go and play it. On to the next game. Dynamite Dan. A rock hard platform game, but on this list because how incredibly well done it was, as in being programmed. It's just a beautifully coded game. 1985, and if you see the amount of insaneness that goes on in this game, it's just an incredible piece of programming. And the idea of this game is you're Dynamite Dan, and you've got to collect 8 sticks of dynamite around the house of Dr. Blitzer in his mansion. That's Dr. Blitzer down the left, and that's his Long-haired assistant on the right. You'll find both of them near the safe room. You've got to collect 8 sticks of dynamite, blow the safe door, steal the plans. It will tell you there. But we don't need to show you that. We just get on with showing you footage of the game itself. And the idea is, yeah, once you've got the 8 sticks of dynamite, there's one down there in the bottom left-hand corner. As you can see, I've already got 4 in the bank. You need 8, and that's the safe just above me. Yeah, blow the safe door, collect the secret plans, the top secret plans, and then escape in your blimp. Now, easier said than done, definitely. So there's Blitzen, there's the safe room, there's another stick of dynamite. The highest I've got in this game ever is 7. I've never got 8. I've certainly never completed it. It's rock hard, but look how well everything is animated. It's just beautiful piece of programming. Very clever. The collision texture is fantastic. It's spot on, and there's no colour clash at all as such. There really isn't. It's just an amazing piece of programming. But as I said, it's rock hard game. You'll be lucky to get very far in it. You're constantly hitting things and getting zapped. Now that thing is deodorant. That's an extra life there. That means you can collide into anything and swallow them up without dying. Doesn't last very long though. Yes, that's it really. But and there's your blimp. You have to get back to that. So I've got 8 sticks of dynamite now in the bottom left-hand corner. So now I've got to get to the safe room and blow the safe. But I won't show you that here. I'll let you try and do that yourself. Dynamite Dan. On to the next game. Dynamite Dan 2. How can we leave Dynamite Dan 2 and not just include Dynamite Dan 1? They've got to go together. They really have. You know, another brilliantly well-coded game, much bigger this time. 8 islands altogether. And the idea in this game is, once again, you've got your trusted blimp. Each island, you have to locate the record. And then locate the jukebox and play that record. Then grab a can of fuel like that. And escape the island and on to the next until you reach the 8th island. And sadly, the 8th island, what was supposed to happen is once you reach that, you're supposed to blow up Dr. Blitzen's record pressing plant. But for whatever reason, Rod Bowcat, that created this game, failed to put it in there. It's a shame. So it just, you get the closer you can get to complete it is just play the 8th record in the 8th island, jukebox on the 8th island, and then escape in your blimp, which I've done without cheats. Again, that's on my channel, Let's Long Played. Completed this without cheats. Another very proud moment of my gaming life. But as I said, this game has got so many wacky things going on in it. You also got to be wary of losing your items. So in other words, a can of fuel, as you can see at the bottom there, is purple. And if you hit a purple enemy, like that, if I was to hit him, he'd steal my fuel. Same as the bombs, they're white. If you hit a white one of them, you lose a bomb. So it's sort of colour coded. Green doesn't do anything. If you hit a red one, you lose your X-ray specs if you've got any at the time. Yeah, I think it's definitely more forgiving than Dynamite Down 1, but still a huge challenge of a game and very, very tricky. There's so many bizarre things going on in it. But yeah, Blitzen is up to his antics again, and it is up to Inspector Dan to rid the world of this madman. Said 8 different islands altogether, all very different with very different enemies, if you call that aliens, and these creatures are so incredibly animated. It's such a great feat of programming, it really is. My hat's off to Rod Bowcat for creating this game. It's just, oh, there he is Blitzen. Now he can hypnotise you in this. He won't kill you, but he'll hypnotise you. If you got low enough energy, he'll kill you, but it would just make you walk in the other direction. You can't control him for just a few seconds. But that can be lethal if you're near an edge of a platform and land into the water. So yes, great game, it really is. If you don't like Dynamite Dan 1, you'll probably like Dynamite Dan 2. It wasn't a third game, sadly. But there we go. I'll leave you with that. Go and play it. Dynamite Dan 2, aka Dr. Blitzen and the Islands of Arcanoid. On to the next game. the Trapdoor. What an awesome cartoon this was. If any of you have ever seen the Trapdoor from 1984-86, it's a claymation cartoon, about 5 minutes each. There was 40 minutes of them. 40 episodes, sorry, of these cartoons, and they're just so funny. I mean, if you liked Wallace and Gromit, this was pre-Wallace and Gromit. This is where it really all come from. You had Morph off of another kids program years before that, but then when you saw this Trapdoor, it was so funny. I used to race home from school getting ready for this, for every episode. One episode per day they were showing, and it's just so funny. Go and watch it. UK kids show, around about 1984, 85, 86. There was 2 seasons, 2 series altogether, and this game is modelled heavily on it. So you got Burke, the main blue character there. You got Boney, who's the skull. He's a nice guy. You got Drup, which is his. In this, he looks like a frog, but he's actually a spider. It's some kind of spider bug, and all he does, he's just annoying. Most of the time, he just gets in the way all the time of Burke, to Burke's frustration, and he answers to what they call the thing upstairs, his boss, who always shouts orders down to him and gets him in a right anxiety, pickled state. It's so funny. Game itself is extremely well done, very, very clever idea altogether. And the idea is you've got to go around the mansion and do certain tasks that your boss upstairs demands you to do. In this case, what you're seeing here, he wants boiled slimies. It's disgusting food that he wants. Boiled slime. So you've got to collect 4 slimies here, dump them in this little yellow canister, and then dump them into a big cooking pot and release the correct monster from the trapdoor. In this case, it will be the mechanical heater, and that will heat up the cooking pot. And then you send that upstairs, and you get the bonus. In here, there's a vat. You can see that's getting ready for the eyeball crush. The guy upstairs eats the most disgusting things, really. Eyeball crush, boiled slimies, can of worms. It's just nasty. But yeah, so there's Boney. If you pick him up, he'll give you instructions, but you know what to do anyway. There's a ghost as well. To get rid of him, you've got to collect a worm to get rid of him. Otherwise, if he connects with you, he sends you into a completely different room and you'll waste time then. Here we go with the bird. Now, at this point, the thing upstairs wants boiled eggs, and the only way to get the eggs out of this thing is you have to put something on the trapdoor. In this case, there's a bullet there. And what you do, let's get rid of this ghost. Cool. You fire this thing up this bird's ass, and it triggers him to, or her, I should say, to lay an egg. And you have to catch it in this tray, right here. So you chase the bird, you get under it. Sometimes it lays a phantom egg. Sometimes, well, all the time it will pretend to lay an egg, but it won't. And here's an egg. Drop, plop, in you go. And then once you've done that, you put it on the stove, heat it up and send it upstairs. It's such a great game. It's a slow, methodical game. And here's the heater. He's just heated up the pot for me. You've got to send that up now. Up in the lift. He's going to be very happy with that. Give you a big, big, big bonus. And then, in this case, what you've got to do is you've got to get rid of this flamethrower on wheels. And the only way to do that is to put it under the weight and crush it. You can check out, again, another game I've completed without cheats on my Let's Long Play. If you want to see the whole game, it's about 25 minutes long. Go and check that out. Fun, fun, fun game. Very, very cleverly done. So here's the wages. That's when you've done all your tasks. It'll send your wages down to you, and then it's up to you to work out how to get the money out. And with that, I'll leave it there. On to the next game. Oh, Renegade. Incredible version. This has taken what I consider a very mundane arcade original, taken away the confusing and complicated buttons. 3 buttons per move. I think it was 1 for jump, 1 for punch and 1 for kick or something like that. It's simplified the moves to perfection, where you only need 1 button and you can perform not just all the arcade moves, but also in this version and this version alone, it's got a throw over your shoulder move, which I'll show here. This is such a fantastic version. The graphic, it's just high res, it's crystal clear, it's crisp, they're lovely. The punch and sounds of the sounds of the punch and kick moves and knee to the groin, it's just fantastic. Brilliant game, so playable, excellently coded, just great, absolutely great. And as I said, you can also now, in this version anyway, you can throw them over your shoulder. It's not even in the arcade, that move. I'm getting walloped here though. I'm just loosely showing you what's going on. So every level has a level boss, and he's out now, as you can see. So let's see if I can throw one over here. I can't remember if I'm gonna. Let's see if I can throw you over the edge, get you a few kicks there. There you go. Boom. Brilliant. Just great. So much fun. Played this back in the day and it took me forever to get past level 3, the Big Bertha. You've got to kick these guys off the bike first, and once you've done that, then all the baddies in the background come ahead and come and get you. And once you get rid of a good amount of them, then the boss, and you'll see which one the boss is in a minute. There we go, he just stays at the top by the car. He waits until you get rid of some of his henchmen. But it's such a great game. And it's got a bonus level as well on the 128K version. The outside level of Mr. Big's hideout, where you've got to rescue your girl. Now these guys can kill you or one hit. They just stab you and that's it, game over. And the boss has got a gun again. If he shoots you once, it's game over. You can get down on the floor and punch the hell out of them as well. It's got everything. It's such a great game, and the graphics are lovely too. 5 great in-game tunes as well. So if you've got this game, definitely play the 128K version. If you want a slightly tougher challenge, then the 48K, because you can't throw them over your shoulder, which means you can't get rid of the baddies so quick on levels 1 and 2. Makes it a little bit tougher, the 48K version, but otherwise this is the one for you. And for those that are interested for a tougher challenge or fresh backgrounds, there was a mod of this, so us Spectrum Games were lucky. We got 2 versions of Renegade. And, well, why not? Let's take a look at that now, shall we? And as you can see, level 1, completely different background. All fresh backgrounds. Just gives it a fresh breath of fresh air. This is Renegade Plus on my channel, fully long played. And I just think, yeah, it just gives it a new lease of life, just a breath of fresh air, lovely new different graphics. It's also harder as well. You get to beat up yourself. There's doppelgangers of you. And again, so in this case, unlike the original game on the train station, you're on a building site by the looks of it. Building work site. Let's go have a couple look at the levels. So now we're in, see, this is Bertha's level, level 3. Instead of outside the bar, you're in it. And you can see there's 2 renegades. So you start off the level, you're having to beat up duplicates of yourself, and they're tough. And there's Bertha, big lump of lard. And again, redrawn backgrounds of Mr. Big's house. Great, so there we go, that's Renegade and Renegade Plus. Lucky ZX Spectrum fans, I say, getting 2 Renegades. We are spoiled. And there you go, game completion, off to get your bird. Right. On to the next game. How can we possibly follow up Renegade? It's got to be Renegade 2, hasn't it? Target Renegade. Came out in 1988 following the hugely disappointing conversions of Double Dragon. We were finally all waiting for a good beat 'em up to play on our 8-bits at home, and we got the crapfests Double Dragons, all on my Shit Game Times, mind you, my series. If you can check them out, I've done them all, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad and the ZX Spectrum, and the Amiga as well. But here we go, finally with a rocking 2-player simultaneous beat 'em up. This is the pinnacle of beat 'em ups on the 8-bit. Gorgeously drawn, huge characters, crisp, graphics are sweet, they're tight, they're crisp, they're neat, they're high res. It's just wonderful to play. You've got these creepy background tunes, you can pick up weapons, and the beauty of this is, yes, you can have 2-player co-op mode. I mean, that's just the creme de la creme, isn't it? That's just the cherry on the cake, the final touch. We finally got a brilliant 2-player simultaneous beat 'em up. So the moment we got this, Double Dragon was completely forgotten about. All the tears were wiped, and this was our saviour. We finally got what we all waited for. And it is such a great game. It follows on from Renegade. You've got to locate Mr. Big, who's murdered your brother for being too nosy and getting involved in his affairs. And it's your job to go and give him a good kicking. And to do that, you've got to get through many, many levels. 5 altogether. So you've got, this is obviously the car park, multi-level car park. You've got the prostitute level. And you've got the punks, and that's the punk level here. Skinheads and punks, and they wallop you big time in this. They can headbutt you as well. You've got a nasty skinhead in this who gives you a severe headbutt. But it just makes it so unique, so much more fun when you've got 2 players at the same time. There's the skinhead coming towards me on the left. Now he headbutts you viciously. It's just great fun. The pinnacle of beat 'em ups on the 8-bit. Target Renegade. Can't leave that on the list. And eventually you'll enter the bar, where you have to beat up even bigger cronies of Mr. Big before you face Mr. Big himself. Just a great game. Look at these blockheads. Look like bloody Frankensteins, don't they? So there you go, Target Renegade. But the good news is, how could we just have Target Renegade on such a fantastic machine? Well, we couldn't. There was no, you just can't have one Target Renegade. Again, like Renegade, we were spoiled as ZX Spectrum owners. We got a mod years later called Target Renegade Plus. So let's take a look at that as well, shall we, while we're doing this video. And as you can see, immediately a completely different background, and it is much harder. You are now, it's only 1-player mode. That's the only down thing part about this version. However, the good thing is, if you want a tougher challenge than Target Renegade, this is it, because you are taking not only player 1's enemies on, you are also taking player 2 enemies on, so you get twice as many enemies to beat up in this. And look at the game, it's just so refreshed. New backgrounds, tougher opponents. This is like playing Target Renegade from the start on Loop 2, because a lot of the enemies now duck, whereas on the first loop, the original game, they didn't. So tougher enemies, more of them, they duck as well, backgrounds have changed. It's just such a breath of fresh air, and we ZX Spectrum owners were so lucky to get this. And I've just beaten up the last baddie, just about to. I think this phone's come out. There's the phone. So look, you got 4. Normally you'd have 2. You got 4 enemies now to beat up. Makes it a lot more challenging. And punk level now is out in the streets, whereas before it was in the park. This time you're out in the suburbs by the looks of it. And the Ladies of the Night level, which is level 2, the prostitute level, is now at night time, as you'd expect they would be coming out at that sort of time. But yeah, this to me is the real Renegade 3. You could call it, yeah, you could say Target Renegade Part 2. But for me, if I wanted to play a Renegade trilogy, it would be Renegade, Target Renegade, and then this, Target Renegade Plus. Again on my channel, oh that headbutt. Again on my channel, long played, in full. Just a great mod, fantastic mod. Let's see what's on this part, next part of the screen. Here we go. So we've got the road in the background. You've got the city, skyscrapers. Oh, what a version! What a breath of fresh air! Just lovely. Again, as I said, us Spectrum owners were very, very lucky. Again, that's the Beastie Boys. Instead of the shopping mall, we're out somewhere like on the beach, I think. And stage 5 is the park. But look at this. You're actually, instead of inside the bar, you're out in the street. Well, you're out on the parks late at night. And instead of being in the actual end of the bar himself in the pool room, Mr. Big in this is on the roof with a helicopter waiting. It's such a breath of fresh air. It's got a huge Dulux paint fresh brush written all over it. It's fantastic. We Spectrum owners are very lucky. We've got 4 Renegades. Marvellous. On to the next game. Horace Go Skiing. The reason I got this on my list is because this was the very first game I ever saw on a computer. Back in the day when I was a youngster, I went round a friend's house, never saw a ZX Spectrum or any other computer in my life. The only thing I knew I had at the time was an LCD game called Firefox F7. This was the first game I got, and of course back then I'm going up to my dad, oh amazing graphics, oh my god, and they technically were, for that sort of year, 1983 or 4, whenever it is. I think I might actually been 5, I was a late developer, late comer along when it comes to 8-bit computers. But I just love this game. It was so simple, and yet it can pull your hair out. It's fast, it's furious, especially the road section. And once you've got past the road, you collect your skis, and as you see, you go down the slalom here, collecting points, getting between the flags. And as the stages go on, the flags get closer and closer. It's such an insane game. And the amount of things that the road stage, the computer is controlling, the amount of vehicles, they're going so fast, especially the ambulance. The ironic thing is, the thing that kills you the most is the bloody ambulance. But it's such a charming little game. It's the second in the Horace series by Cyan Software. It was mostly given out in packs when you bought your Spectrum. But I remember playing this for the first time, and it was like, this was the result of me getting my Spectrum. Oh, I failed a few flags there. Finish line, get 100 points there. And then you're back on the road again. And you've got to cross the road, across all this lot that's coming up, and try and get back to the slalom. So sometimes everything's trying to run you down. It's easier at first, like it is there. It gets harder and harder, and then you're back down the slopes again. Every time you crash, you lose $10. Why it's dollars, I don't know, because it was created in England. It should be pounds. Who knows? But just a very fun, charming little game. It had to go on the list because, again, I've been asked what were your favourite games, or what were the games that you have on your Spectrum which means anything to you, and this is one of them, I'm afraid. This is one of them. There's 2 other games, Hungry Horace and Horace and the Spiders. They're the official games, but there's other modded games too involving Horace. There you go, Horace Go Skiing. Have a go. I bet you'll enjoy it. Check it out. On to the next game. Miami Cobra GT. Now I had to throw a driving game in there. There's others. The classic one is Checkered Flag. I mean, it looks very primitive now, but you can appreciate how cleverly well it was done, because it was 1982 that came out, and phenomenal game really, Checkered Flag. But Miami Cobra, this is a budget title, and I think it is one of the most incredible examples of how a racer should be on the 8-bit that I've ever seen. There's also Chevy Chase. Of course, if you want to go higher up the price rank, then yeah, Chase HQ is considered one of, if not the best arcade conversion ever made. Not my type of game. I enjoy playing it, that's for sure, but you know, I can live quite happily without it. But by God, I can appreciate how good of a conversion that is. So yeah, by all means, go and check Chase HQ out on the ZX Spectrum 128K. Fantastic, but I'm not going to include that here. I'm going to include this because it's a budget release, and it just shames, again, this is where I get my kick from. If it means putting the middle finger up and shaming US Gold as a publisher, I'll do that every time, and this does exactly that. This is a perfect example of how well a driving racing game can be done. It's fast, it's fluent, you've got sense of speed. It kind of uses the Chase HQ engine. You know, if it was just, I'd say it would if it was the same programmers, because even the skid mark animation from your tyres as you go around corners look exactly like they do in Chase HQ. So this is like a budget version of Chase HQ. And for $2.99, would you be disappointed in this? You get different levels, you get turbos as well, just like Chase HQ. You get different stages, different colours. It just moves so well. And you got a sheer case sense of speed in this. And this was sporting a £2.99 price tag back in the day. This came out several years later than bloody Outrun. And you know what that looked, didn't you? It was bloody awful. Again, different backgrounds, different colours, all sense of speed is there. It's just a fantastic game. I really recommend you put this in your list for a driving game on an 8-bit machine. I've never seen a driving game move so quickly. Chevy Chase again is another one. The only thing I don't like about Chevy Chase is I find the car a bit too big. But yeah, there you go. There's the racer for you if you want one on the ZX Spectrum. Miami Cobra GT. Brilliant, brilliant sense of speed, brilliant game, and a huge middle finger up to those who try to recreate Outrun on the 8 bits. Disgraceful. This is far from it. Great, great game. Go play it. Right, on to the next game. Turbo Esprit by Jarrell Software. Now this is a cross between sort of like a Chase HQ game, but it's like a racer, but at the same time you're going for the baddies. The idea is you have to locate the drug dealers, make sure they do the drug deal before you actually try and arrest them, and yeah, that's basically it. And just a phenomenal game if you know how to play it once you get into it. Ahead of its time, many would consider. You turn off onto different roads, bring the map up, and yes, to find these cars, they're usually, if I remember right, they're in purple or blue, and I've just crashed into a wall there. But yeah, you can fast turn around corners. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult if you're stuck on the side like I am. So you back up a bit, and then I see a little human there, look, little walker. Included them as well. So it's one of those early games of a 3D kind of environment. You can shoot cars as well. But yes, I think once you get into this game, you'll appreciate how good it is. So that's the idea. It's kind of a racer, stroke Chase HQ kind of game. You've got to race against time, got to race through the city and get the bad guys. I suppose that's like Miami Vice, really, isn't it? Something like that. But yeah, I thought I'd throw that game in there because it is it's a classic. So give it a go. It will take you a while to get used to know what to do, but once you do, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. And I've got to admit, I love it the way it moves all that 3D scenery around. That's very good. And it shows very good speed too. Yep, Turbo Esprit. Go check it out. Genesis. Yes, a 2010 game here by RetroWorks, and I had to throw a shoot 'em up in this. This obviously is a much later game in the ZX Spectrum's life, more sort of homebrewish age, rather than back in the day. But this, I think, everyone praises R-Type conversion. I was never really an R-Type fan. It would be nice to have a 128K version of that, but it was considered a fantastic version. But this is another game, another left to right shooter. 6 stages, and I think is really, really good. It's got 128K music as well. As I said, 6 different stages, loads of enemies to shoot at, and phenomenal game. I just think it should be in a collection of anybody playing this game. So let's see what this game's like. So it's 6 different levels, all different colours, all different backgrounds. You can collect power-ups too. You've got a bit of a super weapon like R-Type as well. And I do like the way the ship's cannons moves every time you fire. But yeah, it's got some famous tunes as well in this. One of them is Equinox by Jean-Michel Jarre, part 5, I think that's in here. You've also got Alice Cooper's Poison in one of these levels too. You get game bosses, which is always good. Level bosses, I should say. all different level, different colours, different scenery, and here's one of the bosses. I'm not going to show you too much of the game because I'd rather you enjoy it yourself. But there's always a tactic to beat these big guys. But the game itself plays extremely well. It's a joy to play. Yes, Genesis. Check that out. I recommend you have it in your collection. I certainly recommend you to give it a try. Released in 2010 by Retroworks. On to the next game. Operation Wolf. Look at that, it even includes the intro of the arcade. I don't even think the Amiga and ST versions included that. But this is a very solid conversion by Ocean. Another reason why I liked Ocean so much. Yes, they did a few dunks, but they did a lot of good ones too. They did a lot more better ones in general than US Gold did. And this was a great conversion across all the formats, it really was. I love the Amiga version, even though it's a little bit slow and juddery. It's more of an ST port with better music. But they got that right on Operation Thunderbolt, its sequel, much faster. And again, that had a good conversion on the Spectrum too. So Wolf and Thunderbolt got generally good conversions on all the systems from Ocean Software. And it plays extremely well. It's like one of the original first-person shooters, I suppose you can call it. I was never a fan of the up-to-date first-person shooters that seemed to come out endlessly on PS3 onwards. That wasn't my type of thing. But I was quite happy to play this game. It plays extremely well. It's fast. Yes, it's monochrome, but the graphics are very detailed, very fast indeed. Hectic, absolute fast-paced action, and just a joy to play. And I've had a warm, soft spot for it for quite some time. So let's just check out one of these later levels, freeing the hostages. So you don't get into pictures, but you get the actual cutscenes at the beginning of each stage, which is quite nice. So there we go, one magazine. I ain't going to last very long on this, is it? So that's the final stage here, the airport. Got to rescue the hostages before you take off. Fantastic game. I recommend it. It's a great, great conversion. If you liked Operation Wolf and Thunderbolt, then I suggest you put this in your collection and at least give it a go. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's very, very fast. You can see smooth animation too. No jerkiness there whatsoever. No clunkiness. Just lovely. Absolutely lovely version. Well done, Ocean. On to the next game. Sabotage. Another great game by Durrell Software. Didn't care much for the sequel. It was much, much bigger, but it was far, far slower. But this game, I remember when I was back at school, we was all wanting to play this. It was just such a cool game, constantly trying to beat each other's time as far as getting the bomb. The idea is you're a ninja, you've got to go into the big, God knows where it is, plant or secret base, whatever you want to call it. Retrieve the disc, set the bomb and escape in your chopper. So yes, here you go. That's where you start off. And you can hold items as well. It's basically a beat 'em up, really. You've got dogs to avoid and contend with. Avoid security cameras and get down into the depths of the plant, I said, whatever you want to call it, the base, and blow up the main computer. You've got to get the disc though, and you've got to find the bomb. You get to shoot guys, you get to kick them and punch them. It's very original at the time. We didn't have any decent beat 'em ups at that time. Renegade was still, I think, still just a little bit of a dream away. This came out about a year before Renegade, I think it was. Yeah, I just think it should be in a collection. I think everyone should have at least one go at it. As you can see now, I've collected the bomb. I've got the disc. I didn't want to show too much of that because I don't want to ruin the game. But if you stand still, you can get your energy back up. You've got a big energy bar there. You can see it's creasing up if you stand still. But you've got to get to that helicopter before the bomb reaches 0. And there's 9 difficulty levels you can choose from. And as I said, there was Sabotage II, much, much bigger game, but it didn't go down too well with many people because it wasn't as fast moving. It was quite slow and time consuming. It felt a bit of a drag compared to this, but this was the original game and it will be remembered as a classic. Everyone who had a Spectrum back in the day remembers Sabotage. We all had a copy of it one way or another, and I'm no different. So yeah, I can't remember where the chopper is, so I'm thinking, I think it's up there, and I've got to go through. Oh, there's this bad guy as well. It might be up here. I can't think it is. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've played it. Oh no, I've got to get over the over all these other platforms for a reach. Yeah, I haven't quite got to the chopper yet. But anyway, there we go. That's the idea of it. Collect the disc, collect the bomb, blow the plant up, get the hell out of there before the counter reaches 0. Good ninja shuriken beat 'em up stuff here from Jarrell. Classic. So that's another recommendation for the ZX Spectrum. On to the next game. It wouldn't be a list, would it, without a key buster, joystick buster game in it, wouldn't it? I could have put Daley Thompson's Decathlon or Daley Thompson's Super Test, but I've chosen Hypersports because it's an arcade game and I think it's an incredible conversion, again, from Ocean or Imagine. I just think it's brilliant. The only thing it's missing is the pole vault stage at the end, but this plays so well. But I recommend that you either use a joystick you don't give a toss about, or a spare Spectrum you don't really care about. So the idea of this game is, yeah, you get through 6 stages. First one, as you can see, is swimming. You have to press the fire button every time you want to breathe. I just thought we needed a game like this in the list. And as I said, if you don't like this, or if you do like this, then check out Daley Thompson's Decathlon and Daley Thompson's Super Test 128, because that has 4 more events than the original 48K version, Daley Thompson's Super Test. So there you go, and coming up next is the famous skeet shooting, which again is a damn good version of the arcade, very well converted indeed. And if you get a perfect run, you get to chance to shoot the duck that zooms past. So let's take a look at that now. So here we go, the famous skeet shoot. It's so fast, it plays so well. Brilliant. So I know on this run I get a perfect. So you do this by pressing left and right. So in this case, left, right, right, left, right. Boom! Perfect. Got the duck. The event after this is, I think, is the horse, where you run and bounce off that horse. I've got a 9.99 in that, believe it or not. It's the highest mark you can possibly get. You've got to be dead jammy to get that. Yeah, it's a... It's only a game you want to play if you don't care much about the spare joystick you've got. Brilliant game. Let's see what the next event is. Go ahead. Oh yeah, and you've got the old bow and arrow job here. That's quite a tough... nice bullseye. That's quite a tough stage to do. Very well implemented again. Excellently done. And after this you have the triple jump. Yay, so I qualified there. This is a great game because it is so well presented. It's just a very, very good arcade conversion indeed. Yeah, it's got to be on the list. I had to put one of these multi-athlete keyboard joystick buster games on the list. It wouldn't be the same, would it? I had to put one on there. And I've chosen this, but this also covers Daley Thompson's Super Test and Daley Thompson's Decathlon as well. Let's just see these arrows out so we get a quick glimpse of the triple jump stage. There's also weightlifting. That's very hard. Bullseye, lovely. And if you get 8 bullseyes, which I've never done, then the whole screen goes flashy. I mean, I can't see how anyone can do that without a cheat. So let's have a quick look at the triple jump. I'm sure it's the triple jump next. Yes, it is. So again, lovely colours. No colour clash. Very well presented. The scoreboard, the timers. It's just beautifully presented. And it moves so well as well. So it's not a case of having, yeah, it looks fantastic in stills. It moves beautifully when it moves as well. It's a great game. make sure you have a go at it. But as I said, make sure you use a joystick you don't really care about, or a keyboard you don't really care about. One of the two. On to the next game. Squidge. How can we possibly forget this game? This came out in either very late 80s or early 90s. I think it's a very misunderstood game, and I think it deserves credit where credit is due. It should belong in your ZX Spectrum collection. If you've got some great games, this does belong in it. And the idea is you're this pigeon. Our apologies for this. We seem to have a problem with Zeus. I think possibly that his medication of Tramadol has been on overload. And we will try and come back as soon as possible, where services will hopefully resume as normal and Zeus has come back to planet Earth. Dundurak. I had to finish this off with a homebrew game, my favourite homebrew game. I think it's so funny, this game. The characters in it are so amusing. It's a brilliant game, no colour clash at all. It's very well programmed. Came out in 2013 by Death Squad. Basically that's just one guy, so it's very clever. This is the second of 3 games in the trilogy. The first one is Thunder Turds, and the third game is Arsewipe, as in arse wipe. It's a piss take of R-type. But that's all to do with Jimmy Savile, so that's why it's called Arsewipe. You've got to blow him up at the end, but that's a different game. That follows on this one. So Dung Durat, what you've got to do in this? Well, you're a dung beetle, and the idea is you've got to... There's basically a hippo that's been shitting everywhere, all over the 20 areas of the park. So there you are, this little character. You've got to collect the fruit in order, so you've got to collect the cherries first, so then you grow a bit. Now you can collect the plums, and once you've collected the plums, you'll grow a bit more, and then you can collect the mushrooms, like that, and then you're big enough to move the poo around. And you do that by just going around it, just moving through it. And you've got to make a, it says sandwich there, but it's basically called a turd burger. And you do that 19 times, and on the 20th screen you face the hippo. And once you've cleared his dung up, he's banished forever, he's gone out of the park. So yeah, you've got this filthy hippo that's just crapping all over the local park. And I love this bit. Check this out. I'll just get a bit of fruit here, and this is a sample of the Beastie Boys song. You'll hear it, and I think it's a very nice touch every time you finish a level. Yeah! So you've got to do that 20 or nearly 20 times before you get to the hippo. And I just think it's so funny. I really do enjoy this game. Look at these little characters. We'll skip ahead to some of the later on levels, so it gets more hectic. The enemies get a bit more bizarre. You've even got a toilet bowl that races across the screen at some point. And from levels 10 onwards, you get these 2 killer beetles. And they will home in on you. These things will just take your energy. But, see that blue pill, if you click that blue and white one, it changes everything to fruit, so you get a few points here. Yeah! You can see there's a beetle in the top left, top right corner, just sat there. And once you're big enough to move the poo, he comes out. And on level 15 there's 2 of them, so you've got to be very careful. There's the toilet seat, zip it across the screen there. Again, you've got 2 of these beetles now that are trying to track you. You've got to get the poo in that burger. And they touch you, you're dead. 1 life. There's no extra lives in this, you get 3 lives, that's it. It gets more and more and more difficult. And more insane. But there's no clash of colour whatsoever. It's just such a well-coded game. It's a really charming little game to play. And it was a freebie as well at the time. Just underrated game. And there you go with the hippo. That's the final screen. You've got to complete that burger before you get rid of him. And if you touch him, he takes your energy off as well. So there you go. That's the whole idea of the game. You collect the poo, put it in the burger, and then on to the next level. Brilliant, brilliant little game. One of my best games and my favourite homebrew game to this day. I absolutely love it. And then there's the sequel to this, the third of the trilogy, called Arsewipe. As I said, the main antagonist in that is Jimmy Savile. I digress big time. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that video with me of the games, my favourite games on the ZX Spectrum, and what I consider you should at least have a go at, or even have in your collection of your ZX Spectrum. If you're just about to buy one, I recommend these games. Give them a shot. It's not law, these are just my personal preferences. Other people have different games. They prefer games like Night Law and Activate and Sweevo's World, isometric games, that kind of. That's not my style. I'm more action and 2D kind of thing. This is my stuff. So these are the games. If I was trapped on an island forever and I had to pick 12, 13, 14, 15 games, it would be these. There's other mentions as well, but I won't go into them. There's a lot more, but the video will be absolutely huge. I had to nail it down to some point. So I hope you're happy with that mix that I've put for you. So there you go. Zeus's favourite ZX Spectrum games as of 2022. Once again, thanks very much for joining me. I'd love to hear your comments regarding this video. Take care, all the best. Zeus out.